Right. Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Thursday, April 6, 2023 Planning Board meeting. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Introduction to board members. To my left, we have Jerry Graybill, myself, Michael LaRue. To my right, Phil Roy, and then Cameron Hladek. We have Irish Griffin for the Code Enforcement Officer, and Hannah Bonine from SMPDC via Zoom. All right. First thing will be the public hearing. There's nothing written on here, but the last one was still open. Is that correct?
I believe we kept it open.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, so we'll keep that open. If anyone wants to speak about that.
Is this the public comment? Or the
Public hearing.
hearing?
Yep. Hi. Just state your name and address.
Karen Mullane, 47 Alley Pond Road. Hi. Still following the Woodland Pond subdivision proposal. Is this a time that I can ask the board questions?
You can ask questions. We just won't answer them till later.
Okay. I think the biggest question that I have is, has a formal environmental review been requested to have Inland Fisheries and the Department of Environmental Protection come out, review the area due to the documented Blandings turtle nesting site? Not just a turtle, but an actual nest site. There are 2 Blanding turtle adults that I've documented. There's up to 6 hatchlings that I've captured on photo. So without a full review, we don't know how many endangered species there are. When I actually spoke with Derek Yorks several months ago, he expressed interest in coming out and doing studies, tagging some of the turtles and get some data on these. They are highly endangered. So I can't express enough how important it is to have this review done. I've been in touch with Wendy Mahaney from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. She, from a federal point of view, this turtle is currently being reviewed for federal protections. Mary Beth Richardson with the Department of Environmental Protection, and she's forwarded and included other people on the email as well, just to, hey, this exists, looking for some protections. I'm in touch with Colin Greenan, who was a senior project manager with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, who also asked for information about the development proposal and whatnot. I've spoken with Derek Yorks, Alex Fish, and Scott Lindsay from Inland Fisheries and Wildlife. I've reached out to Nature Conservancy, the Bureau of Resource Management at Inland Fisheries, Biological Monitoring Unit at the Maine DEP, Natural Resources Conservation Services with the USDA, Land for Maine's Future Program, Mount Agamenticus to the Sea, beginning with Habitat, Center for Wildlife. I'm even in contact right now with David Domino from the Senate Majority Office, who has looped in Jared Gray, who is the legislative aide to Senator Rafferty. I'm sounding the alarm. These animals are dying. Their numbers are decreasing. In 1987, they were listed as threatened. 10 years later, they were listed in Maine as endangered. Their numbers are not getting better. Without a full review, we don't know what we have here. And it is special, and it warrants protection. So, David Domino from the Senate Majority Office was in touch with Inland Fisheries. He's also reached out to the DEP, but he hasn't heard back from them. And Inland Fisheries states that they have not received a formal request for review by a regulatory agency. We would provide additional review and recommendations if formally requested by the town of Berwick or the Maine Department of Environmental Protection. So my question is, will it be requested by the town? And if yes, then we're on the right path. And if the answer is no, it just will direct me where to look and who else to contact. Like I said, we don't know what we have out there, and it's pretty amazing. And there's a talk of a 250-foot buffer around the area for like the wetlands and stuff where the turtles are known to exist. And I'm wondering, I don't know if the planning board would do this, if that buffer, when I built my house, I had to stay 250 feet away from a stream that was on the land use map. I think this pond should be on the land use map as well. It warrants the protection and the buffer, not just $250 feet in one specified area, but around the whole pond's edge, because this pond is the home to these endangered species. So that's where I'm at. Can you provide any answers?
Later on in old business, we'll give
Okay.
some answers.
Do you have any questions for me? All right, spring is coming up. Turtle meeting season's happening. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Carrie Hilliard, 11 Alley Pond Road. I also just want just some further clarification from the meeting from last time, and just to reiterate everything that Karen has stated in regards to the endangered species that are located in the Alley Pond Road, Johnny Lane area. I walk that road frequently, and I have noticed as of recently, our duty to do it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi,
Hi.
my name is Rick Raines, and I live at 18 Carolyn Drive in Berwick, and I am the fiance of Karen Mullane and the builder of the new construction house that she's going to live in. Hopefully let me live there too.
Is this why you're on your best behavior?
I'm certainly trying. So I guess in that regard, the first thing I want to say is that I support Karen in all of her efforts completely, and the amount of work that she's put in here has been a lot. Now, I am a carpenter by trade. I have been for 25 years, and so I understand both that development is inevitable. It also employs me. So I'm not here in the sense to say stop the development. I am here to support the neighbors and my fiance to make sure that all avenues are followed, to make sure that the rules in place are indeed followed, and that all due diligence is given to the area and the animals and the neighbors to make sure that this developer can abide by the rules and suggestions from the parties that have the power to make them, i.e. Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, Department of Environmental Protection, and you guys. And if so, then the development should go in if the modifications are met. My understanding through Karen is that there was a meeting between IF&W and Altus, and that Altus agreed to do some modifications. We don't know what they are yet, so it's hard to speak on what they've come to an agreement so far. But this application for a further review would endeavor Inland Fisheries to look closer into the area, put boots on the ground, and see what's what. I know that in the beginning of this process, I heard that there may be a third-party follow-up, and I'm not sure if that was to the soil scientists or engineers' findings, but I don't know exactly how it works, but the transparency would be important to me, that like if Altus hires the soil scientist and gets a report from them, is anybody able to verify that it's done appropriately? Not saying that there wasn't anything inappropriate at all, probably not, but you never know when somebody hires their own person for their own benefit, like a realtor hiring a house assessor. So, having said that, I hope we cross our T's and dot our I's and move forward. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so no one else is here to comment. Should we leave it open one more time?
I would.
Yeah? Okay, all right, so we'll leave this open. Next is public comment for non-agenda items. If you could just state your name and address.
My name is Pat Bovair. I live at 6 Country Lane. I am here to ask the board what has been done about making performance standards for gas stations and perhaps other omissions to the land use.
I'm going to be having a meeting with James to talk further about this. Other than that, I don't know of anything that has been said.
I can speak to that when
Okay.
we answer the questions in the old business.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm not sure I can stay. Right.
Well, this isn't in the public hearing, so this is just public comment.
okay.
So if you want to answer, Mary, you
So
can.
basically, I've been working on drafting some performance standards. So
Great.
they're not at any point ready for the board yet, because I'm kind of wearing a lot of hats and juggling a lot of balls right now. But I've been working on for gas station and convenience stores and solar. And I've got one more that came to mind that escapes me at the moment. And I don't know if I have it in my trusty and rusty notebook, but I've been working on a few of them. Some rough drafts to present to the board.
Okay,
when
because
they're-
I know they were expecting the application by the end of this month, and hopefully something was going to be in place so that,
Well,
you had something to say to
I
the
don't
people.
know. We don't have any timeline that we're expecting anything for any gas station or solar projects.
Coming in. You mean.
Yeah, we don't have any timeline for anything because we haven't received anything.
Mm-hmm.
But if they were to apply now, honestly, I don't know that we're going to have time, as was discussed before, to get any other land use changes in. But we do have everything we need in our current performance standards and requirements that we can place on them through the planning board to make everything work out. So,
Well,
And Ms.
Maybe-
Bovair,
Yes.
if I can shed some light too, I share the same concerns you have with regard to that project and its location. I can't say much more than that, but the thought-provoking, forward-leaning questions that I have asked related to that have brought me to the conclusion that because we do not have our own standards, it would fall under the state and federal standards.
right.
I have reviewed those. I believe that
You're a
they are
better man than I
sufficient.
am.
We could make them more restrictive, but
Yeah.
that we will not meet that timeline. I just want to make sure we're managing your expectations. But we will hold any project that comes before the board accountable to the state and the federal requirements. I can assure you of that. And
Well,
we will
and-
make sure we're well-versed on what those are before the applicant comes before the board, if and when.
And if there's any concerns, we can condition them, and then any conditions would be brought into the performance standards.
and
Yeah.
if something is built and any issues arise after they're constructed, and if it's beyond my wheelhouse to address, I have all the contacts at the state level to get higher ups in here to take a peek at things and get everything right. So,
And I guess I was wondering if this is a time when it's appropriate to get our town planner involved in helping get some of these things
Well, rough drafts first. First steps first, rough
And-
drafts, and then I will
And
send them
then,
out to
and then they
Hannah.
go, and then they go to the town planner.
They'll go to Hannah.
Okay.
And, well, I'll send them to James first because he's my boss, my direct boss. So I'll
Okay.
send them to him to make sure he approves.
Mhm.
And then we'll send them to Hannah to make sure that, that A, she approves, B, she can add anything she feels is needed, and C, she can verify that there's no conflict that I've missed with any other ordinance. And then we can bring it before the board.
Okay.
It's a multi-step process to make sure we do
Okay.
it right.
Thanks for
Because the
informing
last
me
thing
of that.
last thing I want to do is just throw something together
Oh, right.
and slam it in front of the board, and then a year from now be
No.
going, oh, this didn't work out good. So
no.
I'd rather make sure that we're fully protected on the front end
Mm-hmm.
and do it the right way. But we're working on it. I
Okay,
promise.
that's good.
And Pat, just
Yes.
so I can answer, you know where I live,
Yes,
so I've done the same thing that Phil's done. I've reviewed the state standards. That's what I do for work too, every day, so
Uh-huh.
I'm going through them, so.
yeah. I guess I'm concerned that there might be some particular conditions, but you can put them on as conditions.
We
in
can put
addition.
them on.
Yep, and in the public hearing, we can
Yeah.
hear your comments, and we can adjust it accordingly.
Right. And as was brought up, I think, I don't know if you know anymore, but the state is doing a DOT survey of Route 4
Yes,
as well.
they are. And I don't know if what I'm about to say is out of turn, so I apologize to my boss just in case. But
Too late.
I did get a call from the person who is proposing that gas station, and we talked, and I did let him know that there's a lot of concern about the traffic, and he is very keenly aware that there's potential traffic issues and plans to mitigate them. It's part of his planning process, and he's watching those DOT studies too. He's involved. So it's, I think it'll be okay with all of us working together to make this, like, safe is key, you know.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
Pat.
Appreciate you working behind the scenes.
We try.
All right, so approval of minutes for March 16, 2023. I was absent that day, so we do not have a quorum to vote on that, so we will be skipping that, and that will move to the next meeting for, was it April 20th?
April 20th, but we did have one concern. I don't know.
Yeah, we spoke about it,
You
so
spoke,
yeah,
and you'll send me
I'll
that
talk with
information?
James about that. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And then moving on to old business, we'll just answer the questions about the Johnny Lane issues. As far as the formal review order, I will talk with James tomorrow and get that ball rolling, unless Irish has something else to add to it.
Mr. Chair, I did get an email. I didn't bring the work phone in here, so I can't read it verbatim. They have been in touch with the Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, and they are planning a time to come out and do a deeper, more intensive study for the turtles and the
He
snakes.
said he
They
would
being
do
the
that.
town or they being the developer?
The developer.
The developer.
The
okay.
developer, and I want to say it was Derek that emailed me, but I don't know offhand who it was, but
Right.
somebody did email me.
The engineer that was here the last time did say that he was trying to get a hold of Derek York to see where it's supposed to go next. And I have it in my notes from the last time, and based on
And
what
I
you
do
just
have
said.
an email. If you
Okay.
guys need me to, I can run next door and grab my work phone and read you that email. But they have been in touch. They are, the project developers are working with DIWF, with the acronym people to do the study on that. So I don't know that we need to request the review formally, but that's certainly
I'll
something
talk
that we
with
can
James.
talk to James
Yeah,
about.
I'll talk with James and make sure that we get the ball rolling for that.
Can-
Yeah.
If they don't, we will, and that way we can solve
Somebody will
this
do it,
issue.
and we know it's
Yeah.
official.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, I know that Mr. Raines had mentioned there was a meeting between, or an agreement between IFNW and Altus.
So since
we-
they aren't here,
Oh,
we
we
can't
can't
really
really
discuss
discuss
that kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
I think even us just talking about this is kind of on the
Stuff-
grayscale.
on the edge.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, we're
so
really
we'll
dancing.
just answer these questions that we can, and then the ones that we don't, when they do show up, then we can discuss these.
And I can also speak to the 250 feet around the edge of the pond. The ordinances are for the entire water area. It's not from like the center. It does. We take that into consideration.
I believe it's written 250 feet from the high water mark, correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, and
Okay.
that is determined, and that actually kind of speaks to the next concern that I made note of here, in regards to the wetlands. So wetlands and any sort of wetlands, any sort of, and Hannah can clarify this if I say it incorrectly, but any sort of water source, whether it be a stream, whether it be a wetland, whether it be a pond, they don't identify it by necessarily by water being there. A lot of times, particularly when you come to wetlands, they identify it based on the plant types that are growing within those areas. So what may look like a wetland may not be a wetland because it doesn't have the type of plant growth required to delineate it as that. And conversely, what doesn't look like a wetland, you may be surprised because it has certain things growing there that they're taking that into account. So there's a lot more involved than just water. It seems, until you start learning about it, it seems like water would be the answer because wetland, stream, pond. But it's really soils and grass and that type of thing. I think I pretty basic explanation, Hannah. Did I miss anything or screw anything up?
I think that's good to answer that at this point.
Okay.
Hannah, could you provide clarification just on the 250-foot high water mark? Because I got a quick education on that myself. It's not from, let's say it's a river. It's not from the bank of the river. It's from the highest or point of deepest depth or the center, correct? Or am I wrong on that?
Great question. The wording is the high water mark of the stream. Exactly where that is, I don't know. I want to say it is edge though.
I got an opinion that it was from the center, but I would like clarification on that if we could get that. I think that lends itself to transparency and us doing our due diligence.
Yeah, I believe where it's measured from depends on the type of water body that it is. So I think some are measured from the center and some are measured from the high water mark. So I may be conflating the two, but we can definitely clarify that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do you guys want me to keep going, or do
Yep.
you guys?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
All right.
I was just looking to see if I could pull up the chapter 100, but as far as Rick's concern about people verifying third-party reports, I'd have to look into that one. But typically, these people aren't going to sell themselves out because their reputation means more than anything else. Because if they skew for one person and they end up with a lawsuit or something, they're not typically going to have any business after that. So,
Irish, I'll say the third-party engineer reviewer was hired by the town, not by the consultant.
perfect.
So,
Thank you. That's even better.
Yep. That answers that question.
And then we had Pat, and her concerns were addressed before she had to leave.
Yep.
So I think we've tackled everything.
Well, there was a question about what modifications were done. I don't know if you missed that the last time, but he did list what they changed from our walkthrough at the last meeting as far as the fire hydrant connection, making the turnaround, putting the gate there.
Yeah,
Right
those will
after.
all be reflected on the new.
Right, but he was
yeah.
asking about what modifications. Those were all brought up and covered at the last meeting.
Since then.
Oh, that
nothing's-
will be presented when they are
When they
actually.
come back.
When they're
Yep.
here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
we can't explain to you their modifications. They have to
Right.
do
Yeah.
that.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. That was it. Moving on, new business, sketch plan review, major subdivision, Worcester Road, R32, 17E, R2 zone.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, Mike Sudak, Attar Engineering, here on behalf of Providential Equity Development. I have Pat Carroll here with me tonight. And yeah, quick overview since this is the first time you guys have seen this. This is the first sheet in your plan set. I'm just going to briefly speak to the project. So this is a cluster residential development that we're proposing. Parcels all the way in the northern end of the R2 zone, 77 acres off Worcester Road. It's technically a dual frontage lot. We have a small bit of frontage off Pleasant Drive. I got that right? But yeah, so what we're proposing, top of the page there, so the northeastern section of the property, about 20 acres of the overall 77, we're proposing to develop into a 14-lot subdivision of single-family residential dwellings, clustered lots. We're well removed from municipal utilities at this point, so everything's going to be private wells, private septic systems. It's a simple road, about 1,400 feet in length, ending in a cul-de-sac. The remaining 57 and change acres is all going to be open space. And let's see, what else do I have? This is not in the plan sets you guys are looking at, but I was out there this morning and I wanted to provide a little more clarity. So the highlighter line there, everything to the left of that, as you're looking at it, is all open field. So the tree line is this section of where we're proposing, and then the remainder of the lot is all wooded. So probably the first 800 feet of the proposed roadway is all just in open meadow, open farmland. There's an existing stone wall that's going to be running along the southern end of the proposed right-of-way. We're going to try and preserve as much of that as possible. The southerly lots that come off that, we're going to need to, make curb cuts, disturb a little bit of the stone wall, but we're going to be preserving as much of that as we can. I really think that's it. Single-family dwellings, like I said, 2,000 plus square feet. There isn't a ton of relief on site. We could do basements if we have the relief for it, but the site is pretty gently sloping from east to west. But you guys will see that when we get to a site walk. So I think that's really all I have. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Am I reading correctly? Lots 1, 3, and 5 are those wetted or wetland areas? Is that what that shaded area signifies? Or?
Yeah. So the first three on the south side of the road, the bottom underneath the proposed travelway. Yeah, that's meadowed wetland. So it's not forested or shrub wetland, but it is hydric soil there. So the building envelope for those are a little bit tighter, and everything else is pretty dry. So.
My question is, Lot A,
Yes.
are they building that right now?
Yes.
Is
So
that included on this subdivision?
it is a homestead exemption that has already been portioned off and is being developed.
Okay.
So it is not factored into any of the density calculations or any of the.
Okay. My concern was just I've seen construction
Yep.
stuff working over there and had no clue what was going on. So at
Yep.
least this is kind of clearing that up.
Yeah, so that one's under development. So the top left lot, as you're looking at the page, and then soon to be developed or already being developed, the opposite side of the proposed road is what's effectively going to become Lot 1 should this development be approved. But right now, it's just a lot that's being developed on the remainder of the parcel.
Okay.
So if the subdivision should occur, it'll eventually become Lot 1. We have proposed this in such a way that we wouldn't be creating a non-conforming lot, but,
Okay.
yeah, good question.
And the area that looks wetted between lots, is it 6 and 7? Is that flowing water or is that standing water?
So it's not flowing water. It's a pretty deep channel, surprisingly. It's right along the tree line north of the proposed travelway, and it's probably a 3 or 4 foot deep, just grassed swale, effectively natural swale.
Is that a naturally occurring, or was man-made burn?
I mean, I can't speak to whether it.
Gotcha.
My guess, considering the rest of the pitch surrounding it, is that it was probably man-made,
Okay.
just at the edge of the field.
Yep.
It doesn't have water perpetually. I would assume, heavier rain events, it's probably flowing pretty good. But yeah, we'll have a culverted crossing through there. Probably a pretty wide one because it is a pretty deep channel. But yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay. Any other questions? No? Hannah, do you have anything to say? No?
No, not at this point.
Okay.
I'll just bring up for the record, just for transparency purposes, that yes, they do have the 2 properties going, the 2 buildings going, which are both legally permitted, and they're doing their inspections. They're doing nice houses. B, while I was out there doing an inspection with Pat, I had stopped there. I'm sorry, this week has blurred together. I think it was yesterday I went over there. No, it might have been today. It was today I went over there, and I had to stop at one of the abutters. He had asked for a notarized form, so I was dropping that back off. And he did ask that if there was any plans for buffering in between the properties that are being built and his business. And I did let Pat know that. I conveyed that directly, and I wanted to make that a record.
Okay, at the
piece.
public hearing, hopefully we can get some more.
Yeah, I just wanted to. I
Yep.
wanted transparency that I did
Yep.
speak with Pat about something that an abutter had
Okay.
brought up because I saw them 2 minutes apart. So,
All right, next is we should schedule a site walk. The 20th? Is that going to be good enough time-wise? Should be, right? Does that sound?
yeah, that's 14 days from today, right?
Yep.
So,
So
I
give you
could-
enough time to get out public notice, I guess. Is that cutting it too close?
I'm a little worried about the timeline on that. I mean, I'm working tomorrow anyways. I can get some notices out. I just don't know because
All right, so
James
let's-
is
Let's
not
give you the
working.
benefit
Let's
of time and kick it
go-
to the next scheduled meeting.
Yeah, so it will be
I
May.
hate to do that, but it's just, I don't know
Timelines are
that I can do
timelines.
it.
You
Yeah.
tell us what you can
I don't
handle.
know. I don't know that I can
May
realistically
4th?
pull
Then
off the
that's-
Then May
20th with
4th.
proper notice.
We'll go for May 4th then?
May 4th.
Does that sound okay?
Yeah, well,
Okay.
what would you like us to stake out there?
Just stake out the road,
Yep.
and just the lots, like just where the corners of the lots are.
Yeah, like the front sidelines.
Yep.
Okay, you got it. Thanks, guys.
What time? Like 5:30? Starting to get darker now.
It's light.
Light.
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock sidewalk work for everybody.
All right.
Hannah, we'll put you on Zoom and just drag you in my pocket.
Excuse me.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Next is the second public comment for non-agenda items.
Hi, Carol Mullane, 47 Alley Pond Road. This is more just about Alley Pond itself,
Okay.
about a buffer being put around the pond. My house is 75 feet off of the pond. I brought Jen, when she was acting code enforcer, I brought her physically out to the property and said, this is where I want to build my house, is this okay? And she's like, yep, it's a man-made pond, it's not on the land use map. The stream is, you're fine from the stream, but the pond is not on the land use map. So 75 feet is plenty. Now that there's endangered species, then I believe the 250-foot is warranted, not just recommended, but to be, it's a man-made pond, and at what point is it established, I don't know. But you guys have seen it, it's pretty established. So, a 250-foot buffer, I think.
But you're 75 feet.
I am, because
Okay.
at the time,
I just wanted
No,
to
I
make
am.
sure that's
No,
known.
I mean,
it.
I
If-
did my due diligence.
Yep, yep.
The land was offered.
Mhm.
I was away from where I needed to be, but
Okay.
but now we know what's there. And we didn't know what was there at the time, so now we do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So yeah, I feel bad about it.
It's okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rick Raines, 18 Carolyn Drive again. Just to speak a little bit more about the house at 47 Alley Pond. Yes, we followed the rules as they were in play at the time, so we ironically, and it's not lost on me, the irony of how close we are to the water.
Right.
What we have done, well, let me back up one step. When we looked at the property and purchased it and got a building permit, all by the book, we had no idea of the animal and wildlife that existed
and no
in the
studies
area.
were done
clearly,
before that.
Clearly. When we discovered Turtle Haven, as it seems to be, We have gone ahead as a couple and decided to drastically change our landscaping plans so that we are less intrusive and less obstructive of turtles coming up to find a place to lay their eggs. We had planned on a ground patio. We are now going to elevate a deck so they can crawl under it. So we're trying to do our best to put our money where our mouth is and help the turtles, even though we clearly are the most invasive property to where these turtles are right now. And I just wanted to say that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'll close that public comment. Informational items. Do you have any?
Is this my deer in the headlight look?
Yep.
Okay, well, as you all know, because I'm sitting here, I no longer have an administrative assistant. We are doing some interviews next week, so good Lord willing and the creek don't rise, we will see a new face. Hopefully at the beginning of next month. Whoever we hire will need to give a notice, obviously. That having been said, I'm going to take this opportunity to ask you all's opinion, if you would be comfortable with me continuing to be the primary person that comes to these meetings rather than the new hire, because I truly enjoyed the opportunity to ask my questions and voice my opinions on the record. But if you prefer to have an impartial, the administrative assistant here instead, that's fine. Or with.
I think having you both here, and that's a great mentoring opportunity for you to help her cut her teeth into how we do business.
Yeah.
I personally think that's
he,
what
her.
he,
Could
her.
be
He, her, yeah.
He, her, him,
Could be
she.
anyone.
But
Them.
it would be a great mentoring opportunity for them to see how we do business and how you do business, and then reevaluate.
I think as a speaking role, I'd rather have you as the speaker and then just kind of learning, because as a technician, they don't really have that authority to be speaking about things unless something is needed to be said. But I mean, between you and our planners, Hannah and Lee J, I think that most of it can be said through you guys.
Okay. I'll be honest, I also think it kind of sweetens the pot for whoever we hire if they know that I will take the bulk of the meetings and they don't have
Right.
to come all the time.
Well, I mean, technically, their
I'm
role
drowning.
is more administration stuff,
Yeah.
filing work and
They're
organizing it.
going to
and-
listen to the meetings and,
Right, and do the
transcribe
minutes
the minutes
and-
and
yep.
do all the email tags. But so you guys are comfortable with me being the basically lead?
Yes.
You're okay with that too, Hannah?
I think you should bring us a copy.
Yes, and I bring my coffee timer, and I have been sipping slowly. But we, without saying too much, I haven't had a chance to see if Hannah emailed me back. The applications are starting to roll in, gentlemen. So
Nice.
busy season is upon us.
Oh.
Building, code enforcement, my end of things is super busy. Planning looks to be picking up, and yeah, not
Nice.
a whole. I don't know. My brain is fried. I've had too much coffee today. I don't think there was anything else. I really am working on land use ordinances. Something that does kind of pertain to the planning board that I think is going to really help the public. I am going to do some. Oh, actually, I do have two things for you guys, but. One of the things I'm going to start doing, because part of my role with the town is to do informational videos, which I've been unfortunately too busy to really do a whole lot of right now. But I want to do some on land use and kind of explain to people how, and it'll be good for me because I've asked Hannah and Lee J to send me whatever information, because I'm like a sponge and I want to learn all about the planning board stuff so I can best facilitate. But I want to start doing some videos about what our zones are, what requirements are, setbacks, what people can do in them, and do some about the planning board meetings, basically kind of what our procedures should be for every applicants that come through, so the public knows and they know what we're doing and why we're doing it. So I think that would be very helpful, because what I've seen here is a lot of questions that have come up for the various projects that I think could be easily understood by the public with a simple explanation of these are the zones, these are the building requirements, and it can't hurt. So I'm going to do that. The other thing is, and this has become it's kind of becoming a bit of an issue. So I spoke with Jody, who's the head of transportation here, and James. Street signs have been an issue, and I guess they have not really been addressed with the developments. What we've done is we've created a new street sign request form, and that way we can get something in writing. I think what we're leaning towards, and Hannah, I'd really like you to weigh in on this, what we're leaning towards is once the project's approved and the street names are chosen, we would like to have the applicants pay that directly to Jody's, to the transportation department, so that they can order the signs, get the signs up as soon as the roads are ready, but do that up front, because that payment is separate, and a lot of our developers are not understanding that in order to order the sign and have it put in, it's a $250 charge. They need to fill out this,
So is the issue a lack of signage or just standardization? What is the issue at hand?
The issue at hand is that we have no, and I wasn't very clear on that at the beginning, I apologize.
That's okay.
Too much coffee. The issue at hand is that people are requesting street signs of me, and we have not apparently had, I guess at one point, before Jenny ended up going split between the two towns, she had a process that she was following. But then when she went South Berwick completely and Joe came in, everything kind of got a little mishmashy, which it
happens.
It happens.
Yep.
You've got people operating different ways, and that, I guess, kind of got dropped and no real
Procedure,
pickup there. So we want to start implementing this procedure that this way it keeps highway paid up on what they are doing. They can order the signs, because sometimes the signs do take a while to come in, and we don't want people waiting on street signs. It will also additionally, and this is huge for me, and this is why, if Hannah, if you don't want to do it this way, I completely get it. You know way more about this than me. But for me, E911 is an issue, and it's been an issue that's been concerning to me since I started here. I know that people don't really care if their houses are numbered and in the E911 system until they're moving in. I care about our contractors working on these houses, because as much as life happens and people need emergency services when they're living in their homes, the risk is exponentially higher when you got people swinging hammers and using power tools. So I would like to get the street signs, get the street names picked out as soon as possible, get the street signs up there, and me be able to do my E911 sooner rather than later. Because I am your E911 addressing officer, in addition to your code officer, and your deputy health officer, and your planning board administrative assistant. I'm a little busy today. But I really feel it's a priority of mine to be able to protect everybody, including the buildings as they're being built. So I'd like to be able to implement the street sign thing at the start. Once it's approved, you're going to do one of these for each one of your streets in your development. Jody and his guys will work on getting the signs. Irish will get out there as soon as you guys have a road made and get you some house numbers. Would you guys be amenable to including that in? And Hannah, is that something we can include in the process for approval? I don't know where that fits into your world.
Honestly, I'm not super familiar with it, because kind of as you said, it's one of those, they get approved and then Public Works takes care of it. But it sounds like a great idea to me. Are you the one who approves street names, or is that?
Oh, that's all me.
Okay. So yeah, I think it makes sense as a streamlining process to get things going and everything. I don't know of any formal process in order to kind of enforce, that being what we do when things are approved. That sounds like a great idea.
Okay, so if I can figure out how we make that like a formal part of the process, you're on board?
Yes.
Is the board on
So
board?
I know we've talked about it before, and I think there'd be a lot of value, because there's so many moving parts when these projects come before us, and us being all volunteers and you being administratively overwhelmed with your current duties. I think there'd be a lot of value in us, and we don't have to do it, at a meeting per se. We can do this virtually and embrace technology, but let's come up with a checklist. for an applicant. I know we have a checklist, but let's dust that off and add these things to it. That way we're not missing anything. We can spitball that on the interwebs via email and come up with a checklist that works for us. And that way, every time a new applicant comes before us, one, we're holding them all to the same standard, and two, we're not missing incredibly obvious things like street signage. And I just think it's going to make your job easier, and it's going to make our job easier. Hey, is the checklist done? Good to go. And I don't think that would require a lot of administrative effort or coordination on our part.
No, we could even just add that to new business one day and just make it part of the meeting, so that way it's more formal, and then we can kind of deal with
Work
it as
on
it
it.
comes. Yeah.
Okay. I do have some checklists that I don't know, Hannah, if they came from SMPDC. They were in one of our shared drives as I was going through, and there's their checklists for conditional use site plans for major subdivision, minor subdivision. I almost think there was 4, so I think I'm missing one.
Well, let's dust them off and make them our own.
Yep.
Okay. Hannah, do you want to be included on those email
Yeah,
chains? All right.
Definitely.
All right, you guys.
Especially if the originals may have come from us.
I don't know where they came from. That's like the
They probably,
story of
more
my
than likely,
life. I
they
don't
did.
know where anything
I mean,
comes from.
SMPDC has been working with Berwick for quite some time now.
Yeah, well, James is very creative with his
He
documents
is.
too.
He is.
So it
He
might be
is.
something that he took from them or took when
Yeah.
he was a planner, or Tammy, or I don't know. I see about 50 names I don't recognize, but
Yeah.
I very much like that idea. Thank you, Phil.
Mm-hmm.
Because it might be a little more administrative work on the upfront end, but if it makes everything run
I think
smoother.
it'll streamline, and it holds everybody to the same standard. We're not
Yep.
shooting from the hip, you know.
Yeah.
Not that we shoot from the hip, but it definitely makes our job
It's-
easier.
It's not shooting from the hip. It's making sure that there are
Crisis
things that
management.
are yeah, and well, making sure that we're not forgetting things
Correct.
is very important. So, thank you guys. That's all I can come out of my little brain today. I don't think I have anything else.
May I just ask a scheduling question?
A scheduling question? Oh. You confused me.
You can speak with me after, and we can work on that. Okay.
If there are no further items for consideration this evening from the esteemed Burgess Room in the depths of the Berwick Town Hall, I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn.
Second?
Okay, all in favor? All right, thank you. Good evening.